Hello, EnderSword here. I guess in this game maybe I'm trial and error, but of course the channel's still EnderSword. I just figured that I'd do one video for this EverQuest thing. Obviously my channel is mostly StarCraft 2, as that's what I'm pretty much into now, but I've gone back and played this game after taking a couple years off of it. They just had a new expansion released, so just before that, say like a week before this expansion came out, I just started playing around with this again and kind of getting back into it, playing about maybe half hour a day. Not too much, not near what I used to actually play with it, but kind of liking it so far. It's a little different than it was when I left, for sure. I had left right about a week into the Underfoot expansion. It may have even been during like the beta or something that I had left, but just didn't like that expansion at all. So kind of took off. Plus, I was doing a lot for say like work and stuff. So yeah, just wasn't really into it anymore, and didn't like the raids. Didn't like how it made you group so much. There wasn't a lot there to do solo, and since I'm a necromancer, obviously that's what I was looking to do mostly. But anyway, now that I'm back, I've just been kind of tooling around and XPing and trying to catch back up to what people do. I had left with just about max AA, obviously from everything below the Underfoot expansion. I still had the max of whatever that was. I was in pretty good raid gear at that time. I was in a guild called Dark Horizon here on the Zedgeny server, and you know, was geared up pretty well, but all of that looks pretty silly now. Basically now missing like 4,000 AAs and falling way behind in gear, have like tens of thousands less hit points than I should at this point in the game, and all that sort of nice stuff that happens when you do take a break like that. But just been trying to get back in and see what I can do. And the one thing that I've noticed, as I found this like kiting area in Beast Domain, and I hear certainly that a lot of other necros have found a fairly similar thing. Just wanted to show kind of what I do when I'm kiting through this area, because I've seen a lot of people pulling mobs here and just killing stuff by like root rotting it in place, and they just pull a single thing and then they just root it in place and start dotting it up, and once that one is dead, they move on to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing, just like that. And my style has always been to pull many things at the same time, not at the same time, kiting at the same time, but basically pulling one of them and dotting it up with as much as it's going to take to actually kill that thing, and then moving on and just pulling the next thing, over and over. So that I've constantly got a situation where I'm dotting up things fully and just ignoring basically the things behind me. I don't really care about these guys following me right now because they're going to die. I've got enough dots on them that they're going to be killed, so I don't really care how long it actually takes. Whereas I find if you're just doing one or two at a time, you're actually, say, pulling it, rooting it, you're actually waiting for it to die, which can take 2 or 3 minutes now, given how much hit points these mobs seem to have. And in this zone, they have just about 1 million hit points each, give or take 60,000 it seems. And that's just too long to be actually waiting for things to be dying on you. So I find this is a lot better, and it's what I've always used to do. And people would always ask, like, what the hell are you doing? You're pulling like 5, 6 things behind you. How are you juggling all that, and so on? But it's actually quite easy when you look at it this way. And back when I used to play, I guess the technology didn't really exist at the time to make it super easy to just make a quick video of what I'm actually doing. So I decided to do this, show just what I'm doing, during one of my lesson burns, show the basic principles behind it. I had a few people come up and ask me, like, you seem to be killing this whole, quarter of the zone or whatever. What is it you're actually doing? How is your DPS that high? Things like that. And this kind of shows you that it's not really a matter of having high DPS. I certainly don't. Again, my gear is behind what it should be at this point, and I don't really have a lot of the rank 2 spells. I did go out and buy some of the key ones for anything I was using specifically to kite, but I'm not raid geared. I don't have good focuses, anything like that anymore. I'm just not up to par. So anyone that actually has been keeping up could certainly do this a lot better than me. And of course I'm talking during this, so I'm maybe not being quite as aggressive with what I'm doing as I normally do. But definitely if your gear is a lot better, if you've got those focuses in place, then you can get a lot more done and do this a lot quicker than me. I've got this down to a 6-dot rotation, so the snare plus 6 dots. I obviously just sort the dots by total damage. I don't care how long it takes to actually do that damage. It makes me sad when I see a Necro soloing and they actually use those 18-second long dots, because that is retarded. That's just a complete waste of... I'm not even concerned about mana at this point. I noticed that now it just doesn't seem that mana is any factor in what we're doing, but it's a waste of cast time. So I always view these kiting sessions as it takes me 3 seconds to cast something. So really pulling a mob only takes about 21 to 30 seconds to actually in my mind kill it, because even though it follows me for the next 2 minutes, I don't really care anymore. It's 30 seconds of cast time and it's going to die, and that's all that really matters to me. It's going to die at some point, so I don't need to pay attention to that little scavenger anymore. It's gone as far as I'm concerned, and I'm simply on to the next one. So it's this amount of time that you should be concerned about. And if you're using those fast dots, whether you're actually doing kiting or whether you're doing root rotting, it's just another cast time that you're going to have to put on. And even though it seems like, oh, it does a lot of damage really quick, it does a lot less damage in total than these other dots actually do. So you're coming off way behind in actual cast time. So in terms of total damage, it's something like the best one of those is like 15th on our list of what they can actually do for us, and that's just not good enough, so I do ignore those and not actually use them. So what I am using now is starting off with necrotizing wounds. Yeah, I do sort by total damage, and then I apply them in the inverse of the amount of time that they take. So I put the longest one on first, obviously, so that you can then be using your time efficiently. They have the longest time to actually run on the thing, and hopefully everything dies before it all runs out. So I do the necrotizing, the blistering, the blazing, the mortification, since that one's actually a really good one anyway, whether you're killing plants or not. It does seem to do a lot of damage, but if you're killing plants in particular, it's actually almost, I think it's number 1 or number 2 in terms of total damage done, just behind the necrotizing one. And that's due to the necrotizing one just being so long and having that extra little bit of burst damage at the end. But mortification is just really good in general. So I just use those 6. I find that using the 6 with the current focus that I have, and I don't think I have any focuses above that 70 mark. I think everything I have is like 0 to 70 or 2 to 70 up to 95, which is really just gear that I've gotten, like group level gear, like basically tier 1 groupish level gear is all I'm actually using, and that's perfectly fine. So to get 6 dots on, I'm sure if you're fully raid geared out, that sort of thing, you can probably get away with like 5 or whatever. I do have pretty much all the damage DPS AA, so crits and destructive cascade and the extension of dots and everything like that. That's what I went after first to make sure that I was getting that all going. I'm doing this pretty sloppy. I'm obviously getting hit as I'm actually doing this. I think I ended up letting one get unsnared because I'm not quite keeping track of what I'm doing here. Yeah, there it is. And yeah, but if your dots, if your focus is a little better, you're never even going to end up with a situation like this. I find that like 1 in 25 or 1 in about 50 of them does kind of get away from me. Just if you get a bad series of crits, just you don't crit very well on that mob. Usually the dots that I'm putting on will kill like 1,000,000 hit points. I think they're designed to kill just about 100 or 1,250,000 or so. So if I do get a fairly bad run of crits, then it will basically leave that one alive. So you just kind of keep an eye out for, hey, who's following behind you, and whether or not it's actually going to outlive its own snare and just reapply that snare onto it. I usually keep better track, but it actually is a bit of a throw-off to be trying to commentate during this thing. I do it a lot for StarCraft games, but I tend to do it on replays. I'm not actually playing while I do it, but I figured in this case I'll just play through it. It shouldn't be that much mental attention required, but I guess if I'm trying to pick up new targets and look around and everything, it is a little bit. So I'm being a little less aggressive, I guess, than I normally am. So we'll see how it turns out at the end. I would say on average doing a lesson burn in this way with my level of gear, I'm getting about 32 AA in the half hour that I do it, so that's not too bad. I don't know what's normal now, but I'm sure that it's a hell of a lot better than just root rotting things in place and just going from one mob to the other. And from any groups that I've tried to join, it's certainly a hell of a lot better than that. It always made me sad when I'd see necromancers saying like looking for group unless you're looking to do like a specific mission or something. If you're XPing in a group, I don't know what to tell you. I've never found that to be a fast thing to do, and particularly in zones like this where the mobs are just so far apart from one another, I don't even know what people are doing. Just the pulling time alone kind of doesn't make any sense to me. Like, you'd have to be pulling and killing stuff every like 5 seconds in order for you to beat the XP that you're going to get doing this solo. Again, the theory behind this is that one mob is going to die approximately every 30 to 40 seconds, depending on how aggressive you're actually being. So if you then put that in a group and divide it by 5 or 6 or whatever the hell the the group factor actually is these days, it can't be that good. You're just not going to be that far ahead of what we're doing here. So I got it. I am doing this quite sloppy. It's kind of gross. I should have probably pre-recorded something and then I used a good one to show what the hell I'm doing, because I'm going to end up quite a few AA down from what I can usually do. But that's alright, we'll just go with it anyway. I'm not looking for perfection, it's really just the general principle behind the thing for anyone not used to actually cutting like this, which I'm sure anyone that's like tip-top level is already doing anyway. So it doesn't really matter for them, just anyone that's not used to it. I've just gotten really sad watching people root rot things in place, and I can't take it anymore. And it's just so sad to see that happen after me being gone for a few years. It's all about necro aggression and being a little cocky and trying to pull as many fucking things as possible and making sure that we have that we're absolutely shunning groups no matter what. and that we are very antisocial and don't like other people. So that's the main key, and that's obviously what's supposed to be drawing anybody to this class in the first place. You know, you've got to remember that we're better than everybody else, and this is why we're better than everyone else. And by doing this and having a bunch of corpses behind you, you get to watch everyone cry, like, you know, oh, overpowered, imba, and all that sort of thing. And that's kind of half of the fun of it, and so on. So I just again wanted to show what the hell I'm doing. I probably didn't need to record something for this long, but I actually am just going to go for the whole length of my lesson of the devoted thing. Maybe I'll just tell a story or some shit like that. Just kind of give my history background on this type of game. I know a few people may be watching this that actually just subscribed to me through the StarCraft channel, and you're like, what the hell is EverQuest anyway? So I might as well explain the game. It's kind of one of, I guess not original, but it's one of the really old MMOs. Probably came out in like 1998 or something like that. It's been around quite a while. I think this expansion is literally the 18th expansion of the game, so it's really been around a long goddamn time. I started playing it in about 2000 or 2001. Started on a normal server, but very quickly moved to a PvP server, player versus player server, not Protoss versus Protoss for my StarCraft people. And from there, just got used to kind of killing people. The character that I still play is pretty much my first one. It's the first one that I took past like level 20 or something like that. And I've been playing that all along. I was in a pretty good guild on our PvP server. Sullen Zach was in the top guild there. Was an officer for a while, was actually the leader of it for a period of time, and then they kind of took our server down and merged it with the other PvP servers, which I don't think any of us liked very much at all. Ours was kind of the no-rule server. We didn't have any play nice policy or thing where you had to treat people kindly or anything like that. So it was a bit of a shock to the system when we were no longer allowed to just train people and attack them any way we wanted. You couldn't, I guess there's no more corpse camping and stuff like that anyway, but you just basically couldn't do anything fun anymore. So it did really throw a lot of us off on what we were doing, and didn't like it at all. I got into a lot of trouble on that server, and eventually one of the GMs had basically said I was a little getting out of playing anyway, and one of the guys actually said, you know, either stop this or we're going to ban you, or you can just take one of the free transfers off the PvP server if you really don't like it and just go play on the normal servers again. So I did do that, and ended up actually just quitting for like a year after that. Damn, there's another friggin' group here. I was hoping, I tried to check this out earlier to make sure that it had the whole area. Usually there's more mobs there, so this is going to slow me down. I guess you do get, obviously it's hard to find this completely empty, but it's like 2:30 in the morning, so I thought that I might be able to get it completely free and all to myself, but these guys hiding over a little ledge, I didn't really check there before going, so I'm missing about like 6 of the mobs that are usually pretty easy to just go and grab. So again, yeah, that will slow me down a little, but don't judge this by the like the total AA I get. It's not going to be comparable to probably you guys having better gear and stuff like that. Anyway, it's just the technique that I'm looking at. So anyway, yeah, back to what I was saying. Went from a PvP server to, I guess, what we call the blue servers. Was in a guild called Triality. Moved to a guild called Sequel, and then eventually switched servers to Zedgeny and joined Dark Horizon here, which is where I was at when I quit playing. So Dark Horizon, about a year, several months to a year after I stopped, the actual guild, which was the #1 on this server at the time, actually just stopped raiding totally. So I guess a lot of people have just kind of fallen out of this game, which isn't super surprising. It kind of stagnated. It sounds like a lot of people weren't very happy with Underfoot. A lot of people didn't really seem to like the House of Thule. I've gotten kind of mixed opinions on that from people. I haven't really played much other than to just level through it a little bit. I haven't really done anything, and these guys are just pulling everything. It's kind of hard to get mobs right now. I'm going to have to make my way back to where I started and see what I can do there. I'm basically going to just pull 2 and see if I can get back to the area I started. The respawn here is 18 minutes, so usually by now I've killed a few more, but the key to what I do, and I really wanted to show this, but they've killed some of the things on the way, is since you fight your way kind of up, I usually leave a couple along the path back so that you can kind of fight your way back without losing a lot of time, so that you're not wasting kind of travel time from one spot to the other, that you're actually kiting along the way back and you're not just running back. So you kind of leave a few up on the ledge here where these people are actually pulling from, and then on my way back towards my original spot where everything's a lot denser, I just pull a couple things on the way so that I'm not just wasting it in travel time when I'm not getting any killing done, because it does kind of add up. Oh, luckily there is one there that must have just either wandered back or repopped, so that's good. I'll pick him up on the way. Make sure that when you do this, it's a very wide open area, so don't get too far ahead of your pet. Like, I want to get back way over here, but I can't just run all the way there, because things will just turn around and kill my pet once you get a certain distance away, and they'll just lose interest in you. Back in the olden days, that was never a thing. Things would just follow you clear across the zone. No matter how far away you were, things never really lost interest in you, I guess, as the thing that it was aggroed on. But I find there is now a kind of maximum distance that you can get away from something before it doesn't care about you anymore. And if you've got your pet on it, then it will just turn around and smack them to death. And then you'll just have to replace the guy. You'll notice that I'm not even getting my pet actually on half these things. When you do kind of calculate what do I need to kill things, to do 1,000,000 points of damage, I try not to include the pet damage in that, because my concern is getting the dots actually on the thing. I don't really get the pet on everything. He's just kind of doing extra bits of damage. He can certainly provide a little bit of insurance. If something's, only got the snare on it, I'll make sure he gets on there to kind of finish it off. But I'm not really relying on that damage. He's not that much anymore anyway, or maybe if I got full AAs on him again, I don't really know what it does. But again, I've only got things up to just before underfoot, so maybe there's more flurries or this or that or some crap like that. Don't really care. But I don't have it yet. So the pet does a little bit. It's a little extra damage, but it's not even as much as one of the dots anymore. I remember we used to always just say, well, the pet's like a free dot. It's kind of like a free fifth of a dot now. Like, it's not very much, I don't find, compared to how much damage the actual dots do with crits and everything like that nowadays. So it does add up, but it's not that important. So I'd rather get an extra cast on than be switching targets and making sure my pet's on the right thing. It's just not that important to me anymore. I may change my mind on that in the future, but a lot of this stuff that I'm doing is just my impression of how things are nowadays. I haven't really run numbers as much as I've done in old days as well. Largely because I don't know what they are yet. I'm still kind of in the mode of kind of parsing some damage out, finding out what things are. I don't really know some innate numbers like I used to anymore. I don't know what the maximum crit rate is. I don't know exactly how some of these focuses work where there's a bracketed focus number. I don't really know. I guess I do know how much, say, all the destructive cascade and stuff together is. I haven't worked in, say, the dot twin casting or whatever that's called yet to figure out what that's helping me with and so on. So I'm kind of taking a more careful route to try and make sure that I'm doing enough damage. Again, if you have much better gear than me, then you're probably, maybe you can cut out a whole extra dot, whatever, especially if you have, like, say, a rank 3 spells or something like that. Maybe you don't need 6, you can do it with 5, you can do it with 4 if you're really awesome, whatever it is. But the general principle is the same thing. Just dot the thing up, let it follow you, don't care. That's all you really need to pick up from this, which really I could have explained in about 3 fucking minutes, but I decided I'm doing the lesson anyway. I might as well amuse myself by talking, and since I got the little YouTube channel up, I figured show it and let some other people who maybe have just played StarCraft 2 see what EverQuest is, kind of a major precursor to things like WoW. This was the big one back in the day. At one point did have millions of users and all that stuff. Still a hardcore group left, still doing things, but not certainly as big as it used to be. But I find everyone left is almost like more hardcore than they were even then, obviously. The average person seems to have just like 3 or 4 accounts now, and it's just absolutely like assumed that a single person is just one boxing an entire group, and they've got 3 characters loaded up with their mercenaries, which I hate the mercenary thing. It's cute. I like the fact that I've got an auto res right there and whatever, but I find that it's very weird for the game itself. I know one of my other characters, my other kind of like secondary guy, has always been a warrior that I just used as kind of a backup tank if we ever needed it for a guild. It was never really a main tank type material, but just something else to say off tank certain mobs, that sort of deal. And coming back as a Necro with the gap in time that I've had is not that big of a problem. You can be fairly under-geared, but if you just kind of grind it out, you're back to normal. I'm finding as a tank, you're not able to do that at all, because you just can't even compete with what the mercenary tanks are going to do. You can't even compete with what a mage pet or something is going to do. They're just so far behind that it's a little off. That's always been a bit of an issue when it comes to the melee classes. They're so much more gear dependent than some of the caster classes and even healer classes. But I'm never really sure how they actually fix that, especially when you go adding the AA and like combat agility, combat stability, that sort of deal. That really makes a big difference whether someone can tank. You kind of then need like several thousand AA to be able to even compete. And when you don't have that, there's always the thing of, well, how do I even then get a group to get it in the first place? And so I'm going to have to fucking kill myself here. Alright, fixed. Yeah, so how do you kind of catch back up to that in the first place? But that's just me rambling about something. I don't really care about that character too much. Anyway, I just always kept him around because, frankly, the guild needed it, and or no guild in particular. I originally made him like 10 years ago or something, and we just kind of made the character from scratch. And my very first guild at the time was called the Bastion Eagles. And we needed a tank. The best tank that we had was a Shadow Knight, and at the time, you just, I guess probably still true now, you just plain needed a warrior. There were times in the middle when a tank could be something else, that it didn't actually have to be a warrior in order to be competitive, but we just kind of At that time, it certainly did. We had just started like raiding out and we realized we didn't have one, so we just kind of got a bunch of people together and we're like, we're going to power level this tank up and then start feeding it gear and everything. And basically as soon as I got to the point that he was actually finally able to main tank for that guild, we lost a lot of people and I ended up leaving and going to the guild hate, which was much better. And then, of course, was more focused on my necromancer character and let my little tank get way behind. I always tried to keep him going with aggro weapons and a few extra things just to keep him mildly competitive, keep him at kind of the group level sort of thing, but I don't even find you can do that anymore. If you've got a tank in group level gear, they kind of don't seem to even be able to cut it. And his AA are only like several hundred. I may work on it at some point and get him up to a few thousand or whatever. What's left on my lesson? So a few more minutes, or 1 more minute maybe left on my lesson, and so this is going okay. At least I haven't died or done anything super embarrassing. I've let a couple come off snare, which I usually wouldn't do. So that was a bit of a mistake, but you can get the sense of what I'm talking about. I'm certainly not super polished and awesome anymore, because anyone out there knows I was definitely awesome always before, but that's not really me nowadays. And I'll try and gun these 2 guys down if I possibly can before the end of the lesson. Probably won't get this other guy because I haven't really barely started on him. But yeah, so I hope this just gives an idea. Probably anyone that almost knows who I am from before is probably doing this anyway. He's probably one of the better ones to begin with. So I'm not really so much talking to you. I'm more talking to the type of people that have actually come up and sent me tells and asked like what is it you're actually doing here? What's going on? And why are you kiting like that? How are you doing that level of damage? And it's not about having DPS that's super high. It's about having DPS on multiple targets such that if you add them up, it becomes super high. So if you're doing like 7,000, 8,000 DPS, well, that's gonna kill it in 2 or 3 minutes. But if you're doing 7,000, 8,000 DPS to 4 or 5 different targets that all die in 2 or 3 minutes, well, now you're doing it 30 seconds each, and you're way better off where you're at. So I'll just end off with this scavenger and just see where I am, and call it a day for the lesson here now. I do hope that this was, I don't know if this is really going to be helpful to anybody or anything like that, if anyone doesn't know this sort of thing, but I just figured I might as well make a video anyway, say hi to people again, tell a little story, and so on. So, kind of good to be back doing this, but I am, like working full time now, and whereas before when I was so hardcore into it, I was just in like university, had tons of time, didn't really go to many classes or anything like that. So I was just killing hours and hours a day in this game. That's not really what I'm going to do this time around, but I want to try and hop on each day to just get, say, a lesson burn done, and kind of build my AA back up, maybe do a couple missions, something like that, but nothing big, no big deal this time. I always just remember that kiting around like this was always relaxing somehow. You just get into a pattern and just pull things around and kill them, and it was just kind of satisfying to see what you could do and kill in a set amount of time. So how'd I do here? I think I started off with 1, so I guess 31 to 32 AA in that little burn. Not perfect. I've certainly done 36 plus on this. And obviously, if your gear is better, if you were full raid gear, I see no reason that you couldn't be in the low 40s. Also here, gear aside, when I was down in this this little ravine down here, there was, of course, the other group there that was disrupting the area that I was going to pull, so that did slow it down for a little bit. But you can see mana is not a concern at all. I used maybe Death Bloom like 4 or 5 times. It's not that big of a deal. In terms of mana usage, you shouldn't be stopping at any point. There's no point in this was I ever close to an area where I needed to actually stop and med up. So if you at all are stopping, that's probably not right. So always keep yourself just going. Decide which dots you need based on what you can sustain for at least that half an hour. You don't want to be taking a break during your lesson burn because you're just throwing it off, and you're going to lose a few minutes there, which can translate to like 3 or 4 AA, because you're going to take time to actually stop to wait for the last thing to die. So you lose like 2 minutes there, and then you're going to med up for like 2 minutes to get back to a good level, and you're losing like 3 to 4 minutes in total. So just don't do that, and that's really all I wanted to say. So I don't really know if I consider this an instructional video, but it's just kind of a this is what I'm doing, how are you guys doing out there type video. I'm gonna keep killing for a little bit just because I am, but I'm gonna shut the video off and just do this in private so that when I die it's not that embarrassing. So thanks for watching. Hope it was helpful. Hope that anyone that plays StarCraft can see what this game is, and it's obviously old school with some awesome old school graphics, and this is trial and error / EnderSword saying goodbye for now, and I'll get back to StarCraft videos soon, don't worry. And don't worry, my channel's not going to be full of this sort of stuff, so if that's what you're looking for, well, if that's what you're looking for and it really bothered you, you're not listening anymore anyway, so who cares about you?